The medical station floated in the darkness of space like a silver jewel. Ji-won stood in the scanning chamber, her arms crossed as she waited for the alien doctors to finish their work. She had been in worse places than this sterile white room. At least here, nobody was shooting at her. Hyun moved around the scanning equipment with quick, precise movements. The alien doctor looked like a praying mantis mixed with a beetle, with 4 arms that worked independently of each other. 2 arms adjusted the scanner while the other 2 tapped at holographic screens that floated in the air. "This is standard procedure," Hyun said in a clicking voice that the translator rendered into flat, emotionless speech. "All new species must undergo genetic analysis before joining coalition forces. It helps us prepare proper medical care." Ji-won nodded. She had heard this speech 3 times already. First from Taemin, the human diplomat who had escorted her to the station, then from the station commander Dal, a being made of what looked like living crystal, and now from Hyun. Everyone was very polite, very careful, very nervous around the first human soldier to set foot on coalition territory. The scanner hummed to life. Blue light washed over Ji-won from head to toe, making her skin tingle. She stood still, breathing slowly, thinking about her mother's last message before she left Earth. "Show them what humans can do," her mother had said. "But don't scare them too badly." Hyun's large compound eyes focused on the displays. One arm reached out to tap a screen, then froze. All 4 arms stopped moving. The alien's head tilted at an angle that would have broken a human neck. "Is there a problem?" Ji-won asked. "The scanner must be malfunctioning," Hyun said, but there was uncertainty in the translated voice. "Please remain still. I will run the scan again." The blue light swept over Ji-won a second time, then a third. Each time, Hyun's movements became more agitated. The alien doctor brought in 2 more scanning devices, arranging them around Ji-won in a triangle. All 3 scanners activated at once, filling the room with blue light so bright that Ji-won had to close her eyes. When the light faded, Hyun was standing perfectly still. All 4 arms hung limp at the alien's sides. The doctor's head turned slowly toward Ji-won, and for the first time, Ji-won saw what fear looked like on an alien face. "I need to call my supervisor," Hyun said quietly. 10 minutes later, the scanning room was crowded. Hyun stood next to a Valine supervisor who looked like an older, scarred version of Hyun. Taemin had pushed his way into the room, demanding to know what was happening. And Dal, the crystalline station commander, loomed in the doorway, light refracting through its body in rainbow patterns. "Explain it to me again," Dal said. Its voice sounded like wind chimes. Hyun gestured at the holographic display floating above the scanner. Ji-won could see a 3-dimensional model of what she assumed was her own DNA, but the image meant nothing to her. The alien doctors, however, looked at it like it was a bomb about to explode. "The human genetic code contains markers from 3 distinct species," Hyun said. "All 3 are listed in the Galactic Extinction Database. Megalania, a reptilian apex predator; Smilodon, a mammalian apex predator; Conistirus, another mammalian pack hunter. All 3 dominated their respective eras on Earth. All 3 went extinct millions of years ago." "So Ji-won is part lizard and part cat?" Taemin asked, trying to lighten the mood. Nobody laughed. "Not exactly," the Valine supervisor said. "The genetic markers indicate evolutionary inheritance. Somehow this human carries active DNA sequences from species that should have died out long before humans evolved." Dal's crystal body pulsed with light. "That is impossible. Genetic material cannot transfer between extinct species and current species unless—" The commander stopped talking. "Unless the current species consumed the extinct species," Hyun finished. "And the consumption was so thorough, so prolonged that genetic material was incorporated into the survivor's evolutionary line." The room went silent. Ji-won felt all eyes turned toward her. She understood what they were thinking. Her ancestors had not just lived alongside Earth's apex predators. They had eaten them, outlasted them, and somehow absorbed their advantages. "How is this possible?" Dal demanded. Ji-won shrugged. "Evolution, I guess. Humans are good at adapting." "Good at adapting?" Hyun's voice rose in pitch, which the translator rendered as distress. "You carry the genetic legacy of 3 different apex predators. The statistical probability of this occurring naturally is—" "Impossible, you already said that," Ji-won interrupted. She was getting tired of standing in the scanner. "Look, I don't know how it happened. I'm just a soldier. But I can tell you that every human probably has something similar in their DNA. It's just how we evolved. This statement did not calm anyone down. In fact, Dal's crystal body pulsed faster, like a heartbeat speeding up. Every human? The commander asked. Well, I don't know for sure, Ji-won admitted. But Earth was a tough place. Lots of things trying to kill our ancestors. Ice ages, volcanoes, predators bigger than your station. Humans survived all of it. We're good at surviving. Taemin stepped forward, his diplomatic training taking over. Commander Dal, I'm sure there's a reasonable explanation for this. If you allow me to contact Earth, I can arrange for our scientists to provide detailed information about human evolution. This human will remain in medical quarantine until the Coalition Science Authority reviews this data, Dal announced. I am also suspending all human military integration programs pending further investigation. You can't do that, Taemin protested. I can and I have, Dal said. The crystal being turned to leave, then paused. Hyun post guards outside the quarantine wing. Human guards, not coalition forces. I do not want to risk any incidents. After Dal left, Hyun led Ji-won to a quarantine room. It was comfortable enough, with a bed, a desk, and a window showing the stars outside. Not a prison, but not freedom either. I am sorry, Hyun said as Ji-won sat on the bed. This must be frightening for you. Ji-won looked up at the alien doctor and smiled. Not really. I've been in worse situations, and how can you be calm? Hyun asked. Your entire species application to join the coalition may be rejected because of this genetic anomaly. Because it's not an anomaly, Ji-won said. She leaned back against the wall, completely relaxed. It's just who we are. My mother used to tell me stories about our family. We come from a long line of survivors. Farmers who became soldiers, soldiers who became explorers. Every generation did what it had to do to survive and protect their families. And the predator DNA? Hyun asked. Ji-won's smile widened into a smirk. All from my mother's side. Hyun's translator could not properly render the sound the alien made, but Ji-won recognized it as distress. The doctor left quickly, all four arms moving in agitated patterns. Alone in the quarantine room, Ji-won looked out at the stars. She thought about her mother, who had served in Earth Special Forces before Ji-won was born. She thought about her grandmother, who had survived the resource wars. She thought about all the ancestors she had never met, stretching back through thousands of generations, all the way to the first humans who had looked at a saber-toothed cat and decided to hunt it instead of running away. The coalition was afraid of her genetic scan results. They saw 3 extinct predators and panicked. They did not understand that those predators were not extinct at all. They had just evolved into something better. Ji-won closed her eyes and waited. The coalition would make their decision and humanity would deal with whatever came next, just like they always had. Outside her window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, Earth hung in space, home to 8 billion humans who all carried the same legacy in their blood. 3 apex predators, combined into one species that had climbed to the top of the food chain and then reached for the stars. Ji-won smiled in the darkness and thought about what her mother would say when she heard about this. Probably something like, only 3? Tell them to look harder. The Coalition Science Authority headquarters looked like a massive brain floating in space. Organic curves and crystalline structures merged together, housing the greatest scientific minds in the galaxy. Right now, those minds were focused on one question: what to do about humanity. Yuna stood at the center of the briefing chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing Ji-won's genetic code. The Krill scientist was amphibious, with smooth green skin and large eyes that could see into the ultraviolet spectrum. She had studied thousands of species during her career, but nothing had prepared her for this. The human genetic structure is unlike anything in our records, Yuna said, gesturing at the spiraling DNA model. Most species evolve by adapting to their environment. Humans evolved by conquering their environment. Every challenge their planet presented, they absorbed and overcame. Around the chamber, representatives from 50 different coalition species watched and listened. Some took notes. Others simply stared at the genetic data with expressions ranging from fascination to horror. Kwan, the Saurine military observer, leaned forward in his seat. The reptilian officer's scales were dark red, and his eyes were the color of amber. You are saying humans are dangerous. I am saying humans are survivors, Yuna corrected. There is a difference. Dangerous implies aggression without purpose. Humans are aggressive when necessary, but their primary trait is adaptability. Show us, Quan demanded. Yuna pulled up new data. The holographic display shifted, showing Earth rotating slowly in space. The human homeworld experienced 5 major extinction events. The last one killed the dominant species and most large predators. Humans evolved in the aftermath, during a period of extreme climate instability. The display zoomed in on different regions of Earth. Ice sheets covered the northern continents, then melted, then returned. Volcanic eruptions darkened the skies. Sea levels rose and fell. Through it all, small groups of early humans moved across the landscape, following prey, avoiding predators, adapting to every change. Most species would have gone extinct, Yuna continued. Humans thrived. They learned to use tools to control fire, to hunt in coordinated groups. They did not just survive the ice ages. They used them to spread across their entire planet. A new hologram appeared, showing early humans hunting a massive woolly mammoth. The humans were tiny compared to their prey, armed with primitive spears, but they worked together, driving the mammoth toward a cliff using the terrain as a weapon. Persistence hunting, Yuna explained. Humans cannot outrun most prey, but they can outlast it. They track an animal for hours, sometimes days, until the prey collapses from exhaustion. Then they move in for the kill. No other species in the coalition uses this strategy. Quan's amber eyes narrowed. Because it is inefficient. Why waste energy on a long chase when you can kill quickly? Because humans have energy to waste, Yuna said. Their bodies are built for endurance. They can regulate temperature through sweating, something most species cannot do. They can run for hours without stopping. They can function on minimal food and water. Evolution designed them to never give up. The chamber was silent. Several species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The concept of a predator that simply refused to stop chasing was deeply unsettling. Bora entered the chamber at that moment, carrying a data case. The human geneticist looked tired from her journey from Earth, but her eyes were sharp and focused. She bowed slightly to the assembled scientists, a gesture of respect from her culture. "Thank you for allowing me to speak," Bora said. She placed her data case on the central console, and new files uploaded to the holographic system. "I have brought classified information from Earth's scientific archives. Information that will help you understand what you saw in G1's genetic scan." The new data showed a timeline of human evolution, stretching back millions of years. Bora walked through it methodically, explaining how early human ancestors had been prey animals, hiding in trees and running from predators. Then something changed. 2 million years ago, humans began eating meat regularly, Bora said. Not just scavenging, but hunting. Active, coordinated hunting. This changed everything. Meat provided protein for larger brains. Larger brains allowed for better tools, better strategies, better cooperation. It was a feedback loop that accelerated human evolution. She pulled up genetic data, showing how certain sequences in human DNA matched sequences found in ancient predator species. We do not fully understand the mechanism yet, but we believe humans incorporated beneficial traits from the species they consumed. Not through direct genetic transfer, but through evolutionary pressure. Humans who could think like predators, move like predators, hunt like predators had better survival rates. Over thousands of generations, those traits became embedded in our DNA. "You became the predators you hunted," Quan said quietly. "We became better than the predators we hunted," Bora corrected. A saber-toothed cat could kill quickly with its fangs, but it hunted alone and could not adapt when its environment changed. Humans hunted in groups, used tools, and adapted to any environment. When the climate changed and the megafauna died out, humans survived. We always survive. Yuna brought up footage of G1 in the quarantine wing. The human soldier was performing baseline physical tests while Hyun monitored her vital signs. The tests were simple: running on a treadmill, lifting weights, reaction time assessments. But the results were remarkable. "This human has been in quarantine for 3 days, Yuna said. She has been eating coalition standard rations, which are not optimized for human metabolism. She has been under psychological stress due to her confinement. Despite this, her performance exceeds baseline predictions for her species by 17%. The footage showed Ji-won running on the treadmill. She had been running for over an hour, her breathing steady and controlled. Hyun kept increasing the speed, expecting Ji-won to tire. Instead, the human's heart rate actually decreased as she found her rhythm. How is that possible? Someone asked from the audience. Persistence hunting, Bora said again. Humans enter a state we call runner's high during extended physical activity. Their brains release chemicals that reduce pain and increase focus. It is an evolutionary adaptation that allowed our ancestors to chase prey until it collapsed. More footage played. This time Ji-won was asked about pain tolerance. Hyun had carefully explained that the tests were voluntary and would stop if Ji-won felt discomfort. The human had laughed at this. Pain is just information, Ji-won said in the footage. It tells you something is wrong, but it does not control you. My mother once reset her own dislocated shoulder during a hiking accident. She was 3 hours from help and had to climb down a mountain. She popped the shoulder back into place, tied it with her jacket, and kept moving. That is just what humans do. Several species in the audience made sounds of distress. The idea of deliberately causing oneself pain was incomprehensible to most coalition members. Even warrior species avoided unnecessary suffering. Kwon stood up, his red scales catching the light. I have a question for the human scientist. If Ji-won carries genetic markers from 3 apex predators, do all humans carry these markers? Bora met his gaze directly. Yes, all humans carry predator DNA to some degree. The expression varies based on ancestry and genetic lottery. Ji-won shows unusually high concentration, which is why the scanners flagged her results. But every human on Earth has the same basic heritage. We are all descended from survivors. We are all descended from predators. The chamber erupted in conversation. Species argued with each other in dozens of languages, all asking the same question. Were humans too dangerous to join the coalition? Dal entered the chamber, the crystalline commander's body pulsing with urgent light. I apologize for the interruption, but we have a situation. Long-range sensors have detected a Nakai swarm moving toward coalition space. Current projections show they will reach our border stations in 48 hours. The conversation stopped immediately. The Nakai swarm was a nightmare that every coalition species feared. They were cybernetic entities that assimilated other species, turning them into more Nakai. No coalition force had ever successfully repelled a major swarm attack. The standard response was evacuation and retreat. Kwon's face hardened. Which stations are in danger? Border Station 7, Dal replied. The station where we are currently holding the human soldier Ji-won. Bora looked at Yuna, then at Kwon, then at Dal. Release her. Let Ji-won and any other human forces in the sector help defend the station. If you want to know what humans can do, give us a chance to show you. Absolutely not, one of the council members said. Humans are unproven. We cannot risk what? Kwon interrupted, standing to his full height. The station will fall anyway if we follow standard protocol. The Saurine have fought the Nakai before. We lost every time. If the humans believe they can help, I say we let them try. Dal's crystal body pulsed in what might have been uncertainty. This would be highly irregular. Allowing an unvetted species to participate in combat operations, the Nakai do not care about regulations, Kwon said bluntly. They care about assimilation. If humans are as dangerous as their genetics suggest, perhaps they can show the swarm what real predators look like. The vote was called. It was not unanimous. Many species voted to evacuate Border Station 7 and retreat, as they always did, but enough voted in favor of using human forces that the measure passed. Dal sent the order. Release Ji-won from quarantine and prepare all human personnel for combat operations. The coalition was about to see what humanity could really do. Border Station 7 hung in space like a metal flower, its docking arms extended toward the darkness. Inside the command center, alarms blared as red warning lights painted the walls. The Nakai swarm was 3 hours away and closing fast. Ji-won stood in the armory, checking her weapons with practiced efficiency. The kinetic rifle felt familiar in her hands even though it was coalition-made. Guns were guns regardless of who built them. Point, aim, shoot. The basics never changed. Hae-il worked at the next station over, loading ammunition into magazine after magazine. The human pilot was shorter than Ji-won, with quick hands and a ready smile that never seemed to fade, even now with death approaching. Feels good to get out of that tin can they called quarantine, he said. Feels good to do something useful, Ji-won agreed. She slammed a magazine home and chambered around. The sound echoed in the armory, sharp and final. Subin emerged from the explosives locker, her arms full of breaching charges and detonators. The marine explosives specialist was humming something under her breath. completely calm despite carrying enough firepower to crack the station in half. "I requisitioned extra charges," she said. "Coalition regulations say I can only carry 6. I took 20. "Good thinking," Ji-won said. "Regulations are written by people who survive. We write our own rules." Kwon entered the armory, his red scales darker in the warning lights. The Sarin commander moved with the careful precision of a career soldier, but Ji-won could see tension in the way he held himself. He was afraid, not of dying but of failing. "The swarm will reach the station in 2 hours and 40 minutes, Kwon said. "Coalition protocol is to evacuate all non-essential personnel and prepare the remaining forces for defensive operations. And then retreat when the defenses fail," Hai-il said. It was not a question. Kwon's amber eyes met the pilot's gaze. "Yes, we have never successfully held a position against a major swarm attack. Our best strategy is delay and evacuation." Ji-won finished her weapons check and turned to face the commander. "What if we don't retreat? What if we attack instead?" "Attack?" Kwon's scales rippled with what might have been shock. The swarm is a hive mind with thousands of units. Attacking would be suicide. "Maybe," Ji-won said. She pulled up a holographic display of the station and the surrounding space. "But the swarm has a weakness. It is a hive mind. Kill the command nodes and the regular units lose coordination. They become individuals instead of a coordinated force." "We know this," Kwon said. "But the command nodes are protected deep inside the swarm's capital ships. No coalition force has ever successfully boarded a Nakai vessel and survived long enough to reach a command node." Subin looked up from her explosives, her eyes bright. "No coalition force has tried with humans." Kwon was silent for a long moment. In the background, the station alarms continued their urgent wail. Finally, the Sarin commander nodded slowly. "Explain your plan." Ji-won laid it out. It was simple, direct, and absolutely insane by coalition standards. A small strike team would board one of the Nakai capital ships during the initial attack. While the swarm was focused on assaulting the station, the humans would fight their way to the command node and destroy it. Without coordination, the swarm units attacking the station would become vulnerable to conventional coalition forces. This plan requires the strike team to survive inside a Nakai vessel for at least 20 minutes, Kwon said. "The environment will be hostile. The Nakai will adapt to your tactics. The probability of success is less than 3%. 3% is better than 0%, Hai-il said. "And 0 is what we get if we just retreat." Kwon looked at each of the humans in turn. Ji-won stood ready, her weapons loaded and her expression calm. Hale was still smiling that unsettling smile, like he was looking forward to the fight. Subin had already started organizing her explosives into tactical loadouts, working on the assumption that the plan was approved. "I will authorize this mission," Kwon said finally, "but I am assigning an observer. Yuna, the krill scientist, has requested permission to monitor human combat behavior from the command center. She wants to document how humans fight." "Fine by me," Ji-won said, "as long as she stays out of our way." The Nakai swarm arrived exactly on schedule. The darkness of space erupted with the sickly green glow of Nakai drives as hundreds of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The vessels looked organic, like they had been grown instead of built, with curves and ridges that pulsed with internal light. In the command center, Yuna watched the tactical display with wide eyes. The krill scientist had never seen a swarm this large. Coalition forces were already moving into defensive positions, preparing to delay the inevitable. Kwon stood at the center of the command deck, issuing orders with calm efficiency. All wings maintained defensive formation. Prioritize protecting the evacuation shuttles. When the swarm breaches our perimeter, fall back to secondary positions. Human strike team, you are cleared for launch, Kwon added. May fortune favor the bold. Ji-won sat in the assault shuttle with Hae-il at the controls and Subin checking her explosives one more time. Through the viewport, she could see the Nakai swarm spreading out like an infection. Individual ships moving with perfect coordination. "There," Ji-won said, pointing at one of the larger capital ships. "That one has the command profile. Heavy armor, central position in the formation protected by smaller vessels." "I see it," Hale said. His hands danced over the controls and the shuttle dove toward the swarm with reckless speed. Coalition pilots flew with careful precision, always maintaining safe distances and proper formations. Hae-il flew like he was trying to give the Nakai a heart attack. The shuttle weaved through Nakai fire, dodging energy beams by margins that made Yuna gasp in the command center. Hale was laughing as he flew, calling out targets and threats like he was playing a game. 30 seconds to contact, Hale announced. Hope everyone remembered to use the bathroom before we left. The shuttle slammed into the Nakai capital ship's hull, magnetic clamps engaging with a deep thunk. Zubin was already at the door, placing breaching charges with quick, efficient movements. Fire in the hole, she said calmly, and then the charges detonated. The explosion ripped a hole in the Nakai hull. Atmosphere screamed out into space for 3 seconds before the Nakai ship system sealed the breach. But 3 seconds was enough. Ji-won, Hae-il, and Subin were already inside, weapons ready. The interior of the Nakai vessel was a nightmare. Organic walls pulsed with bioluminescent light. Cables and tubes ran along the ceiling like exposed veins, and everywhere Nakai units moved with insect-like precision. The Nakai had once been dozens of different species, assimilated and rebuilt into cybernetic soldiers. Some still showed traces of their original forms: a mammalian torso grafted to mechanical legs, an avian head connected to a body of twisted metal and flesh. They moved as one, reacting to the human intrusion with mechanical efficiency. Ji-won opened fire. The kinetic rifle bucked against her shoulder as she put rounds into the nearest Nakai units. Headshots, center mass, anywhere that disrupted the cybernetics connecting the organic parts to the mechanical systems. Hale covered the left flank, his rifle barking in controlled bursts. Suzbin threw a breaching charge down the corridor ahead, and the explosion cleared their path forward. In the command center, Yuna watched through the camera feeds built into the human's armor. What she saw defied everything she understood about combat behavior. Coalition forces fought with discipline and caution, minimizing risk and preserving resources. The humans fought like the predators in their DNA had fought, aggressive, adaptable, and absolutely relentless. Ji-won led the team deeper into the ship, navigating by instinct and combat experience. When Nakai units tried to flank them, she anticipated the move and repositioned. When a corridor was blocked, Subin blew a new path through the wall. When they encountered a room full of enemies, Hale provided covering fire while Ji-won pushed forward. They are enjoying this, Yuna whispered to Quan. Look at their vital signs. Elevated heart rate, increased adrenaline, but no signs of panic or fear. They are excited. Quan watched the feeds in silence. The Saurine commander had fought in dozens of battles, but he had never seen anything like this. The humans moved through the Nakai vessel like they belonged there, like they were the apex predators and the Nakai were prey. Ji-won's team reached the central chamber after 18 minutes of sustained combat. The command node sat at the center of the room, a pulsing mass of organic tissue and cybernetic components. Nakai units poured in from every entrance, trying to protect their central processor. Subin, plant your charges, Ji-won ordered. Hae-il, cover her. I will hold the door. What happened next would be analyzed by coalition military academies for years to come. Ji-won positioned herself at the main entrance and simply refused to let the Nakai pass. She fired in controlled bursts, dropped empty magazines and reloaded without looking, used the terrain to funnel enemies into kill zones. When her rifle ran dry, she drew her sidearm. When that ran empty, she used a Nakai weapon she ripped from a fallen enemy. Behind her, Subin worked with calm focus, placing charges around the command node with mathematical precision. Hale protected her back, his rifle never stopping. Charges set, Subin announced. 30-second timer. Move! Ji-won ordered, and the 3 humans ran. They made it back to their shuttle with 5 seconds to spare. Hale fired the engines and pushed the shuttle away from the capital ship at maximum burn. Behind them, Subin's charges detonated. The explosion was not large. It did not need to be. The charges were shaped to direct all their force into the command node, destroying the organic processors that coordinated the swarm's activities. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Nakai units across the entire swarm stopped moving in coordination. Ships drifted out of formation. Attack patterns dissolved into chaos. The hive mind had been decapitated. Quan watched the tactical display change in real time. The Nakai, so terrifying moments before, were now vulnerable. All wings press the attack. Exploit their confusion. Drive them back. Coalition forces, following human tactics for the first time, attacked with new aggression. The swarm, unable to coordinate a defense, began to retreat. Ship by ship, the Nakai withdrew until the last vessel jumped to faster than light and disappeared. Border Station 7 had held. Against all probability, against all precedent, they had won. The medical bay was quiet except for the steady beep of monitoring equipment. Ji-won lay on the bed, her eyes closed, her breathing even. Bandages covered her arms and torso where Nakai weapons had torn through her armor. By coalition medical standards, she should have been unconscious for days. Hyun moved around the bed, checking vital signs with all four arms working independently. The Valine doctor had been monitoring Ji-won for 18 hours since the human strike team returned from their mission. What Hyun was seeing made no sense according to any medical knowledge the coalition possessed. Impossible, Hyun muttered for the 7th time that hour. This is completely impossible. Ji-won opened one eye. What is impossible? Hyun jumped, nearly dropping the medical scanner. You should not be conscious. Your injuries were severe. Blood loss alone should have kept you unconscious for at least another day. I heal fast, Ji-won said. She sat up carefully, wincing as injured muscles protested. My mother is the same way. Once she broke her leg during a training exercise. Doctor said 6 weeks to heal. She was walking in 3 weeks. That is not fast healing, Hyun said. That is physiologically impossible for most species. Bora entered the medical bay carrying a portable terminal. The human geneticist looked tired but excited. I have been analyzing Ji-won's medical data from the mission. Hyun, you need to see this. The Valine doctor pulled up the data on the main display. It showed Ji-won's vital signs during the fight inside the Nakai vessel. Heart rate, oxygen levels, hormone production, all tracked second by second. When the combat started, her body immediately entered a heightened state, Bora explained, pointing at the readouts. Adrenaline flooded her system. Her heart rate increased to support greater oxygen flow. Her liver began converting stored glycogen to glucose at 3 times the normal rate. Her pupils dilated. Her pain receptors reduced sensitivity. Combat readiness, Hyun said. Many species experience this when threatened. But look at the duration, Bora said. Ji-won maintained this heightened state for 18 minutes of continuous combat. Her body did not fatigue. It adapted. When she needed more oxygen, her breathing automatically adjusted. When she needed more energy, her metabolism accelerated. Her body treated lethal combat as a problem to solve, not a threat to flee from. Hyun studied the data in silence. The doctor's compound eyes moved rapidly, processing information. This is the predator DNA. It is not just genetic memory. It is active, very active, Bora confirmed. And it gets more interesting. Look at her healing rates. New data appeared on the display showing tissue regeneration over the past 18 hours. The wounds were healing at rates that would take coalition species days or weeks. Ji-won's body was rebuilding damaged tissue, fighting infection and repairing trauma all at the same time. How? Hyun asked simply. Redundant systems, Bora said. Human bodies are built with backups. 2 kidneys when one would work. Liver cells that regenerate. A heart that can repair minor damage. Immune systems that attack threats with overwhelming force. Evolution designed humans to take damage and keep functioning. Dal entered the medical bay, the crystalline commander's body pulsing with soft light. I need to speak with Ji-won. Is she well enough for questions? Apparently she is well enough to do anything, Hyun said, gesturing at the human sitting upright on the medical bed. Her species does not follow normal biological rules. Dal approached the bed slowly. Up close, Ji-won could see fractures in the commander's crystal structure, old injuries that had healed but left scars. Even beings made of living crystal understood the cost of combat. You saved the station, Dal said. No coalition force has ever successfully boarded a Nakai capital ship and survived. Your actions will be studied for years to come. We did what needed to be done, Ji-won said simply. The swarm had a weakness. We exploited it. But you knew you might not survive, Dal pressed. The probability of success was minimal. Why take such a risk? Ji-won considered the question. Through the medical bay window, she could see the station's docking arms and the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Earth hung in space, home to billions of humans who shared her genetic legacy. Because that is what humans do, Ji-won said finally. When something threatens us or threatens people we protect, we do not calculate odds. We act. My ancestors faced extinct predators, ice ages, and volcanoes. They did not survive by running away. They survived by fighting back. Yuna entered the bay at that moment, the krill scientist moving with quick, excited steps. I have completed my combat analysis. The Coalition Science Authority needs to see this immediately. Within an hour, the briefing chamber was filled again. This time, more species attended. Word had spread about the human victory against the Nakai, and everyone wanted to understand how it had been achieved. Yuna stood at the center, surrounded by holographic footage from the battle. I have studied the combat recordings from all 3 human participants. What I observed challenges everything we understand about military tactics and combat psychology. The holograms showed G1 moving through the Nakai vessel, clearing corridors with brutal efficiency. Yuna paused the footage and zoomed in on the human's face. Even through the helmet visor, G1's expression was visible, focused, calm, almost peaceful. Humans process fear differently than coalition species, Yuna explained. For most of us, fear triggers a freeze or flight response. Our bodies tell us to stop, to hide, to retreat. Human bodies respond to fear with what they call an adrenaline rush. Their fear response increases combat effectiveness. The footage continued, showing Ha'il flying the assault shuttle through impossible maneuvers. The pilot was smiling during the entire sequence, his hands steady on the controls, even as Nakai weapons fire filled the space around him. This human is experiencing joy during life-threatening combat, Yuna said, pointing at Ha'il's expression. Not madness or battle rage like some warrior species. Actual pleasure from the challenge of survival. That is insane, someone in the audience said. No, Quan said, standing from his seat. That is apex predator psychology. Predators enjoy the hunt. They find satisfaction in the challenge of tracking and capturing prey. Humans evolved as persistence predators. The chase, the hunt, the moment, a victory. All of this triggers pleasure responses in their brains. Yuna nodded. Exactly. And this extends to all forms of problem solving. Humans experience satisfaction from overcoming obstacles. The greater the challenge, the greater the reward. Combat is simply the most extreme form of problem solving. New footage appeared showing Subin placing explosives on the command node while Nakai units tried to kill her. The Marine worked with the same calm focus someone might use when building furniture, completely unconcerned by the chaos around her. Humans compartmentalize stress, Yuna continued. This one focuses entirely on her task, trusting her teammates to protect her. She does not waste energy on fear or doubt. She simply completes her mission. Bora stood to add her perspective. What you are seeing is the result of 2 million years of evolutionary pressure. Humans who panicked during hunts starved. Humans who cooperated during hunts survived. Humans who could think clearly under stress became leaders. Generation after generation. The traits you are seeing were refined and enhanced, but the genetic markers from extinct predators, Dal said. How do those factor into this? They provide the foundation, Bora explained. Megalania was an ambush predator with extraordinary patience. Smilodon was a burst predator with devastating attack power. Dire wolves were pack hunters with complex social structures. Humans inherited advantages from all 3. Patience, striking power, and pack cooperation. Quan walked to the center of the chamber, his red scales catching the light. I fought alongside the humans in this battle. I watched G1 hold a position that should have been overrun in seconds. She held it for minutes, not because she was stronger than the Nakai, not because she had better weapons, but because she refused to fail. The Saurine commander pulled, up the final moments before G1's team evacuated the Nakai vessel. The footage showed G1 firing her last weapon, a Nakai rifle she had scavenged holding the entrance while her teammates prepared the explosives. This is what makes humans dangerous, Quan said quietly. Not their strength or their speed or their technology. Their refusal to accept defeat. The Nakai swarm is a hive mind that calculates optimal outcomes. It expected us to retreat because that is what we always do. The humans attacked because that is what they always do. The chamber was silent as the implications sank in. Humanity was not just another species asking to join the coalition. They were a species that had climbed to the top of a death world's food chain by being better predators than anything evolution could produce naturally. Dal's crystal body pulsed with decision. The coalition vote on human membership will be held tomorrow. Based on what we have seen, I believe the outcome is clear. But first, I have questions for G1. Back in the medical bay, Jiwan received a stream of alien visitors over the next few hours. Some came to thank her for saving the station. Others came to ask questions about human culture, human biology, human psychology. Jiwan answered as best she could, trying to explain what it meant to be human to species that had evolved in completely different ways. Hyun returned in the evening, checking Jiwan's healing progress one more time. The wounds that had been severe that morning were now scabbed over and beginning to scar. By tomorrow, they would be mostly healed. "I was afraid of you when I first saw your genetic scan," Hyun admitted. 3 apex predators in one being. It seemed like a nightmare. "And now?" Jiwan asked. "Now I understand," Hyun said. "You are not a nightmare. You are what survival looks like when a species refuses to give up. Earth made you strong because it had to. Only the strong survived." Jiwan smiled. "My mother would like you. She always says that easy times make weak people, hard times make strong people. Earth had a lot of hard times." Through the medical bay window, the stars continued their eternal dance. Tomorrow the coalition would vote on humanity's future. But Jiwan was not worried. Humans had faced worse odds and survived. They always survived. The alert came at dawn, station time. Jiwan was already awake, running through combat drills in the training bay despite Hyun's protests about proper healing time. The alarm cut through the morning routine like a knife, and Jiwan knew immediately what it meant. The Nakai were back. Kwan's voice came over the station communication system, calm but urgent. "All personnel to battle stations. Long-range sensors detect Nakai swarm approaching. Fleet composition is 3 times larger than the previous attack. This is not a raid. This is an invasion." Jiwan ran to the armory where Hyail and Subin were already gearing up. The pilot's easy smile was gone, replaced by grim focus. Subin was loading explosives into her tactical vest with mechanical precision. "They want revenge," Hyail said. "We embarrassed them last time. Now they are coming with everything they have." "Let them come," Jiwan said, checking her weapons. "We will show them why predators do not give up." In the command center, Kwan studied the tactical display with growing concern. The Nakai fleet was massive, centered around 5 capital ships instead of the usual one. Thousands of smaller vessels spread out in perfect formation, approaching the station like a wall of death. Dal stood beside the Serene commander, the crystalline being's body pulsing with rapid, anxious light. "We must evacuate. The station cannot withstand an assault of this magnitude." "Evacuate to where?" Kwan demanded. "The swarm will chase us. They will assimilate every ship we have. At least here, we have defensive positions." Yuna worked at a science station, her webbed fingers flying over the controls. "I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the Nakai capital ships. They are generating some kind of dampening field. It will interfere with our communication and coordination." "They learned from last time," Kwan said. "They know we adapted our tactics. Now they are countering with their own adaptations. The swarm may be injured, but it is not stupid." Taemin rushed into the command center, breathing hard. "I need to speak with Jiwan. Emergency communication from Earth. Her mother is on the line." Jiwan stood in the communications room, looking at the holographic display showing a woman who could have been her older twin. Ji-hai stood in what looked like a forest, wearing hiking gear and carrying a backpack. Behind her, a group of young people practiced wilderness survival techniques. "Mom," Ji-won said, "this is not a good time." "I know," Ji-hai said. "Taemin briefed me on the situation. Nakai swarm, massive force, probable station loss. That is why I called." "To say goodbye?" Ji-won asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "To give you tactical advice," Ji-hai corrected. "I fought against rogue AI during the resource wars, cybernetic hive minds that assimilated human technology and turned it against us. We beat them. I can help you beat the Nakai." Ji-won felt something unclench in her chest. Of course her mother would not call to say goodbye. Ji-hae was a survivor, a warrior, a woman who had reset her own dislocated shoulder and kept climbing. Emotional farewells were not the family style. "Tell me," Ji-won said. "Hive minds have a weakness. HFY explained. They process information perfectly, but they process it the same way every time. They cannot improvise like individuals can. If you can overload their decision-making with too many simultaneous threats, they freeze. Just for a second, but a second is enough. How do we create simultaneous threats? Ji-won asked. Chaos, Ji-hai said simply. Hive minds crave order. Give them disorder. Attack from multiple angles. Use tactics that make no logical sense. Be unpredictable. The Nakai will try to calculate optimal responses, but if every response leads to more chaos, they will hesitate. Ji-won absorbed this, her mind already working through possibilities. That goes against everything the coalition teaches about combat. They fight with discipline and order. And they lose to the Nakai every time, Ji-hai pointed out. Sometimes the right answer is the one that makes no sense. Trust your instincts, daughter. You have good instincts, all from my side of the family. Ji-won smiled despite the situation. Thanks, Mom. Are you hurt? I can see a bandage on your arm. Ji-hai glanced at the bandage like she had forgotten it was there. Minor bear encounter during yesterday's training session. The bear learned to respect human territory. I learned to move faster. We both survived. That is what matters. Stay safe, Ji-won said. You too, Ji-hai replied. And Ji-won, show them what we are. Show them what Earth made us. The communication ended. Ji-won stood alone in the room for a moment, thinking about her mother teaching survival skills in the forest, completely comfortable in conditions that would terrify most coalition species, thinking about her grandmother who fought in the resource wars, thinking about all the ancestors stretching back through time, each one facing impossible odds and surviving. She returned to the command center where Kwon was organizing defensive positions. I have a plan, Ji-won announced, but you are not going to like it. The plan was insane. Instead of defending the station in organized formations, the humans would split into small teams and attack the Nakai fleet from multiple angles simultaneously. No coordination between teams, no unified strategy. Just pure chaotic aggression designed to overwhelm the swarm's ability to calculate optimal responses. This violates every principle of military strategy. Dal protested. Your forces will be isolated. They will be outnumbered. They will have no support. Exactly, Ji-won said. The Nakai expect organized resistance. We give them chaos. They try to predict our movements. We move without prediction. They look for patterns. We give them randomness. Kwon stared at the tactical display, his amber eyes calculating. It might work. It should not work, but it might. The Nakai have never faced an opponent that deliberately embraces disorder. Coalition forces maintain defensive positions around the station, Ji-won continued. You protect the evacuation shuttles and provide covering fire. Let the humans be the chaos that breaks the swarm's focus. The Nakai fleet arrived like a storm. 5 capital ships, each larger than Border Station 7, surrounded by thousands of smaller vessels. The dampening field activated, and coalition communications degraded to basic levels. But the humans did not need complex communications. They had simple instructions. Attack, survive, repeat. Hae-il led a squadron of human pilots straight into the Nakai formation. No tactical approach, no formation flying, just 12 pilots attacking in 12 different directions, using maneuvers that made coalition flight instructors weep. They did not try to destroy ships. They tried to be everywhere at once, forcing the Nakai to track multiple fast-moving targets. Subin and 3 other Marines took a boarding craft and rammed it into one of the capital ships, not the command ship, a support vessel on the fleet's edge. They fought their way inside and started destroying everything they could find. No strategic targets, just random destruction designed to force the Nakai to divert resources to internal security. Ji-won led 6 soldiers in a different direction entirely, targeting the Nakai ships trying to flank the station. Her team used hit-and-run tactics, striking and then fleeing, never staying in one position long enough for the swarm to coordinate a response. In the command center, Yuna watched the tactical display with wide eyes. The human forces were scattered across the battlefield with no apparent coordination. It looked like suicide. But the Nakai fleet, so perfect and organized minutes ago, was starting to show cracks. "The swarm is hesitating," Yuna said, studying the energy signatures. "Look at the capital ships. They keep changing target priorities. They do not know which threat to address first." Quan saw it too. The Nakai were trying to calculate optimal responses, but every calculation led to a new problem. Focus on Hyel's pilots, and Subin's Marines destroyed internal systems. Focus on Subin, and G1's team destroyed supply ships. Focus on G1, and the pilots attacked from a new angle. "It is working," Quan said, disbelief in his voice. "The chaos is actually working." But the Nakai were learning. The swarm began adapting, allocating resources to deal with the unpredictable human attacks. Slowly, methodically, the hive mind was finding patterns even in the chaos. Ji-Wan saw it happening. Her team had just destroyed their third Nakai supply ship when she noticed enemy fire becoming more accurate. The swarm was predicting their movements based on previous attacks. "All human units, listen up," Ji-Wan broadcast on an open channel, knowing the Nakai would intercept it. "They are adapting to our chaos. We need to become more chaotic. Stop thinking like soldiers. Start thinking like predators." Hyel responded immediately. "What do predators do?" "They hunt," Ji-Wan said. "They stalk. They wait for the perfect moment. And then they strike." The human forces changed tactics again. Instead of constant attacks, they started using patience. Hyel's pilots would disappear from sensors, only to emerge from unexpected angles. Subin's team stopped destroying random systems and started targeting critical junctions. Ji-Wan's soldiers began coordinating strikes with each other through simple hand signals and shared instinct. The Nakai swarm, expecting continued chaos, suddenly faced something worse: intelligent chaos. Predator tactics that combined cooperation with individual initiative. Ji-Wan's team reached the largest capital ship and found a weak point in its shielding. Instead of alerting the other teams, they waited, watched, learned the patrol patterns of Nakai defenders, and when the moment was perfect, they struck. The boarding action was brutal. Ji-Wan led from the front, using every advantage her predator DNA provided. Pattern recognition to predict enemy movements, spatial awareness to use the environment as a weapon, endurance to keep fighting when logic said she should fall. Behind her, her team moved with the coordination of a wolf pack. Each soldier protected the others. Each soldier trusted the others. They did not need complex communications because they understood each other at a fundamental level. They reached the command node faster than the swarm could respond. Subin, who had fought her way free from the other capital ship, somehow appeared with fresh explosives. Hyel provided covering fire from his fighter, threading through the capital ship's superstructure with insane precision. Ji-Wan planted the charges herself this time, working with calm focus while Nakai units tried desperately to stop her. She thought about her mother in the forest, teaching survival to the next generation. She thought about her grandmother fighting rogue AI in the resource wars. She thought about all the humans who had faced impossible odds and refused to quit. "Charges set," Ji-Wan announced. 30 seconds. Everyone out, the team ran. The Nakai tried to stop them, but humans running for their lives were the fastest things in the galaxy. Persistence predators who never stopped, never tired, never gave up. The explosion tore through the capital ship's command node. The swarm's coordination shattered again. But this time was different. This time 4 other capital ships remained. The swarm's backup systems began taking over. The Nakai had learned from the first attack and built redundancy into their invasion fleet. "It is not enough," Dal said in the command center. "They still have overwhelming force." Quan watched the tactical display and made a decision that would be remembered in Coalition history. All Coalition forces, new orders. We stop defending, we attack. Use human tactics, create chaos, target the remaining command ships simultaneously. Coalition pilots, trained for careful precision their entire lives, threw away their training and dove into the Nakai fleet. Coalition Marines, who had spent careers following protocols, started improvising. Every species in the Coalition forces did something that felt wrong, felt dangerous, felt like suicide. They became predators. The battle turned into chaos on a scale never before seen in space combat. The Nakai swarm, built for calculated warfare, found itself facing an enemy that embraced unpredictability. Every calculation led to new surprises. Every adaptation met new challenges, and in the center of it all, G1 led her team through one final assault on another capital ship. She was injured, exhausted, running on willpower and genetic legacy, but she kept moving because that was what humans did. The second command ship died, then the third. Coalition forces fighting with human tactics overwhelmed the fourth. The fifth tried to retreat, but High-Eel's pilot squadron chased it down and destroyed its engines. The Nakai swarm, for the first time in recorded history, broke and ran. The remaining ships jumped to faster-than-light speed and fled Coalition space. Border Station 7 had not just survived. It had won, decisively. In the medical bay afterwards, G1 lay on the same bed where she had healed from the first battle. Hyun checked her injuries with what might have been resignation. Humans healed fast. Hyun was learning to accept it. Kwan entered, followed by Dal and Yuna. The crystalline commander's body pulsed with calm, satisfied light. The coalition vote was unanimous, Dal said. Humanity is accepted with full membership status. More than that, human combat doctrine will be integrated into coalition military training. You have changed how we think about warfare. We just did what came naturally, Ji-won said. Humans are good at adapting. No, Yuna said quietly. Humans are good at surviving. There is a difference. Every species can adapt. Only humans refuse to stop adapting. Taemin entered with a communication device. Ji-won, your mother is calling again. Ji-hai appeared on the holographic display still in the forest, now teaching a group of students how to build shelter from natural materials. When she saw Ji-won bandaged but alive, she smiled. You won, Ji-hai said. It was not a question. We won, Ji-won confirmed. Of course you did, her mother said. You are my daughter. You have my genetics. Speaking of which, did you tell the coalition about the other two predators in your DNA? Ji-won blinked. Other two? The genetic scan found 3 predators, Ji-hai said, her smile widening. Megalania, Smilodon, direwolf, but they missed 2. We also carry genes from Tyrannosaurus rex and the giant short-faced bear. Tell them to scan deeper next time. All from my side of the family. In the medical bay, Hyun made a sound like a dying whistle. The Valine doctor frantically pulled up Ji-won's genetic scan and started running deeper analysis protocols. Ji-won looked at the camera and smirked. Thanks, Mom, you're always so helpful. That is what mothers do, Ji-hai said. We help our children succeed. Now get some rest. You heal fast, but you are not invincible yet. The communication ended. Ji-won lay back on the bed and closed her eyes. Around her, coalition scientists began the long process of understanding humanity's genetic legacy. They would study humans for years, decades, centuries, and every time they thought they understood, humans would surprise them again. Because that was what predators did. They adapted. They survived, they won. The stars outside the medical bay window burned cold and eternal. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, home to billions of humans who carried the same legacy. 5 apex predators combined through evolutionary pressure into one species that had climbed to the top of the food chain and then reached for the stars. Ji-won smiled in the darkness and thought about what her mother would teach her students today. Probably something about persistence, about refusing to quit, about the importance of being able to reset your own dislocated shoulder and keep climbing. All from her mother's side, always.